Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw, and I'm here with a familiar face. If you've been in the travel industry for as long as I've been, it's Geoffrey Kent, who's the founder and co-chairman of Abercrombie and Kent, which is the famous tour operator, adventure operator, one of the largest luxury operators around in the country and around the world. And we wanted to talk to Geoffrey a little bit about both. We're going to talk a little bit about his career, and then we're going to talk about where we are in this crisis, which we were just talking earlier, as both of us, is probably the worst one we've ever faced, but we are going to emerge from it. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that's going to be. But you'll find out about all that and more on Insider Travel Report. Now, Geoffrey, first of all, I've actually never done one of these longer interviews before with you, so I wanted to get a little bit of, first of all, where are you? I think you're in Monaco, correct?
First of all, do you like my beard?
I love it. I love it. But I think I'd seen a photo of you before, so I was ready for it. So you couldn't surprise me that much. I haven't got a beard yet. Is this a COVID beard?
Yes, it is. I've never had a beard before. I was in the British Army, and you were never allowed to grow a beard. So this is like the first time. There
you go. You're turning a rebel in at this point in your life. Huh? You're just going to go for it, right?
Exactly. So where are we?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about a bit of background about Abercrombie and Kent. I've heard the story. It's a wonderful story about how you founded it, and how you got into travel and tourism, first of all.
Well, first of all, I'm a Kenyan. I was born actually in Africa, in Zambia, but only there for a few days, and went back to Kenya, where we had a farm above Lake Naivasha called South Kinnankop, very high up. And I grew up this incredible childhood of basically riding horses everywhere. I became a polo player. And so I grew up on safari. I was expelled from school and took a motorbike and drove it from Nairobi to Cape Town, first time ever. And then my dad launched me in the British Army to teach me a lesson, which he did. The Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. That's where I got all my discipline. And in the process of all that, we lost our farms in 1962.
Oh, that's when the uprising came, right? Yeah.
When self-government came along. And, my dad and mom wanted to maybe go to Australia or maybe go somewhere. But we all sat down and said, listen, my dad and mom were so good on safaris, and why don't we start a safari business? Mm-hmm. And then we had, what are we going to call it? And this long-winded process. And I said, we're going to be top of the yellow pages, because then I learned going to South Africa, if you look up anything, like a Google search.
Sure.
Top of the yellow. And so we came up with Aardvark, AA.
Right.
That made for a lousy logo. Can't make much out of an anteater. So we gave that up. And in the end, we came up with Abercrombie and Kent. Because AB.
Yeah, I've heard that because I've always, your name has always been there, but Abercrombie was the silent partner, if you will, that didn't exist, right?
And AB put us to, and also, I always called him my rich partner. Oh, Mr. Abercrombie and Kent, Mr. Abercrombie died in town. But even to this day, we still get people emailing now saying, oh, by the way,
Abercrombie, right?
We are great friends of the Abercrombie.
Well, I mean, here we always thought you were Abercrombie and Fitch. We thought you might have been part of the fashion outlet, but yeah. So it's a great story, and that's how. So you began. This was back in the '60s when you first began the company, correct?
1962, in April of that year. Yeah.
And then how did you grow the company? Because obviously, you expanded tremendously. And I think one of the things that Abercrombie and Kent is famous for is that you have all your own ground operators all around the world. Most people outsource, but in your case, you don't, right?
Well, it's a funny story. I was a young kid, grew up in Africa, went to the British Army, had all the discipline, but I was always very, very ambitious. I was determined I was not going to be one of the guys driving a Land Rover around Nairobi for the rest of my life. And I'm always looking at how I could get out, what I could do. And ironically, I'd read somewhere that the richest people in America were Texans. I said, first of all, the richest people in the world were Americans. Okay. And the richest of the Americans were Texans.
Right.
And so I used to wait outside the New Stanley and wait for anybody who was a Texan. And that's how I got my business going, right? With Americans. But then I realized I was really a DMC. People didn't even know what a DMC was in those days.
Right.
But I said, nobody's really worked this out. And then the Hilton was built in Nairobi. It was the first Hilton. And I went to look at it. I went to the opening. And one of the people from Hilton told me, they're so brilliant, Conrad Hilton, he builds them all the same. So an American can walk to the door, he knows where the light switch is, how to turn on the bathtub, what's hot water, what's cold water, and so you can build them all over the world. I said to myself, wow, nobody understands DMCs yet. Maybe I can copy that exactly, use my military background to write guidebooks, really, like I have in the Army, a book on how to...
A manual to be a DMC.
There you are. And that's exactly what happened. So it's all because of the Hilton, my ambition, Army, manual, and I went around the world opening up DMCs.
So you were able to expand from Kenya into other parts of Africa and then beyond that, right?
Well, what happened like most things, it was a slow start. I was a guide for 10 years, 1962 to 1972. And, I was just building up clients. I got David Rockefeller, who sadly passed away, became my client. David introduced me to all the IMF bankers. I got 100 more bankers. They introduced me to their friends. But I suppose the big break came in about 1978 when I took over the British Airways holidays program, right?
Oh, okay.
And I became the agent for that. And I said, where do you want me? They said, wherever we fly. I said, great. So that suddenly was Egypt, India, South Africa, Zimbabwe, everywhere. And I was the first to go into China and was the first person in the world to operate individual trips into China, which was one of my huge breakthroughs. But it was really following the British Airways, and they were really good to me, Colin Marshall was wonderful. And
I remember Sir Colin. Yes, very well.
He was wonderful to me. I was like and we did very well for each other. I mean, we did great for him. He did great for us.
Yeah. So then obviously you got hooked into the luxury travel advisor side of the business. I think initially probably through Virtuoso and other things back when it was API. And then you got good contacts. I mean, I just saw you on a session with Valerie Wilson earlier this month or last month. So you really got great contacts there who became very devoted to your products and services.
Well, I suddenly realized I was the first, I was inducted into the British Hall of Fame about, 8 years ago, for really having created experiential travel. And I think it goes back to one of my first visits to New York. You and I were discussing this, and I'd always go to 21 in those days, and they'd ask me there, and I'm telling this story how I've just, been tracking lions and escaped the rhino that charged. My truck got stuck. My clients were left down below. We escaped into the trees and missed out all the lions. And so this guy said, whoa, he said, that's insane. So I said to him, oh, so what's the most dangerous thing you do every day? Oh, he said, probably running an amber light on the way to work. And I said, that's it. I am going to go right to the edge, try and take the danger out. Do it myself. And I still do it myself, everything.
Yeah. Well, no, you still need trips.
I've just been in the South Pole,
Right.
So take all the danger out of it, make it as safe as possible, and that will be Abercrombie & Kent. So we were the first to deliberately go to the most dangerous trips, make them as safe as possible, and bring adventure and experiences into everybody's life. So that's what I've been doing for a long time. 1962.
That's wonderful. It's a great story, and it's such an iconic company, and you've been such a leader of it for so long. Let's talk a little bit about it. A few years ago, you had sold a pretty major stake of A&K to an investment firm. You continued to lead the company, but then about 3 years ago, you partnered with Manfredi Lefebvre of Silversea and really got your company back, and he's now your co-chairman, I believe. So what's that been like? Has that worked out, I assume? Because, you guys are both over in Monaco there. And what's it like being back in total control of your company's destiny?
Well, listen, it's a good story. I mean, I've known Manfredi forever, I think since 1982. Indeed, I wrote a wonderful book called Safari by Geoffrey Kent. And in it, I forgot to put that we owned a ship, the Explorer, since 1982. So I actually have to have a reprint to put his name in. But so I've known Manfredi forever, and really I was very upset at one stage in my life. He said to me, so why did you come and live with me in Monaco? I said, okay, fine. It took me 2 weeks. I arrived here in Monaco. He lent me his office. He lent me his secretary. He did all the legal work for me, made me a member of the yacht club. In fact, I really owe my whole existence to Manfredi coming to Monaco.
Right.
We always met each other at least once a week for lunch or dinner or breakfast, and told him what I'm doing. He told me what he's doing. We're members of the World Travel and Tourism Council together, knew all the same people. And when this was happening, he just sold his business to Silverseas.
Right.
And we're in the process of maybe looking for a buyer. And so he said to me, well, why don't I become your partner? And so Manfredi came in as my partner, and we've been co-chairman ever since. We love working together. Very, very shrewd. And he's, to be successful in life, you've got to have strengths where other people have weaknesses. My strength is selling, marketing. I'll sell you a trip by the end of this, don't worry. But, I like to sell, operate. I'm an operator, seller, builder. And he's a very shrewd financial guy.
Oh, yeah.
Numbers are not, as everyone will tell you, not my greatest thing. As long as you're selling every day, cash coming in. That's the key. Then how you handle the cash, that's something. He's very, very good at that. Brilliant at it. So we're very, very amenable. We don't have any squabbles or fights, and we just want to build the biggest, greatest company ever. And of course, along comes COVID in the middle of all that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get to that. Now we've come present day, and hopefully we will emerge from this. But how has the coronavirus crisis, tested and really affected Abercrombie and Kent? And what have you had to do as a company to get through this? And what are you continuing to do?
Well, you've been around a long time. This is far worse than 9/11, far worse than SARS, far worse than revolutions in Africa. I have never, and nor Manfredi, experienced anything like this. And by the way, it's getting worse, not better. We're in a worse position now than we were, say, in February, in March when it all started, right? But immediately, we moved immediately. I said, Manfredi, this is bad. We moved immediately. We cut back wherever we can. We worked at what's the most essential thing to keep Abercrombie & Kent going? Mm-hmm. Those key people we keep, and we got to keep them. And we said, cut back to this is the time I call the longest breathe. If you're diving and your air's running out, you've got to save your air. We've got to save our air, tread water, be really careful, which is what we did. And again, we have no debt as a company. We had no debt at all. We had a lot of cash within the company. We had 7 great years. So a lot of money within the business. And we're both in the business, so I don't have to explain like you would have to a private equity group. Oh, sorry, it's going to get better. He knows. I know.
Yeah, well,
and we know it's all going to get better.
With it on, even though he's part of Royal Caribbean Group, he's dealing with it on the cruise side too, right?
Absolutely. And we'll have this conversation, I'm sure, in a year's time or 2 years' time. We'll say, yippee, look where we came. And so, it's just keeping the key people, keeping the motivation going, keeping the trust of the travel agents who is, I've known them ever. Matthew, I taught Matthew how to play polo 1,000,000 years ago. When his dad came, taught him how to fish. Yeah, I've known Matthew forever. We all know each other.
I've known Matthew since '92 as well, and I've always enjoyed. I do so many interviews over the years with him, and so we've got to know each other. And he's a great guy. And I did know he played polo. Yeah, and I think he told me you taught him.
Yeah, and so Valerie and our family, and we just the key is keep trust, keep the enthusiasm going, talk to their clients, all locked at home, dying to travel, saying, we're here, as soon as we can hear, we'll travel again, which we will. And so that's the key,
What kind of industry will we have when we emerge from this? Will it be any different?
Well, again, this will sound a little bit self-serving, but I think that the first out of the box are going to be those with money, who have, they feel confident of traveling, have the money, so it'll be more the elderly people. I think they'll want what we've always done, which is tailor-made travel. I think they won't want to initially go in big groups. I think that you'll find 2 families getting together, multi-party travel, next door with me and their kids. You'll have multi-generation, multi-family. That'll be the sort of vehicle that will move. I think that they'll start to go to places actually which we pioneered. I think Africa will be very, very popular.
Yeah.
I think Egypt will be popular. I think that South America will be popular. I think that America will be popular. We have a big ground operation in America, and I'm leading a big trip in June of next year in the American West by plane. I think planes will become very popular, my private plane trips, small planes, big planes. They'll come in. I think private yachts, expedition yachts, small yachts will become very popular, and isolated lodges and tailor-made. And I think there'll be a very big growth here. I mean, already I can guarantee you the minute I announce my next private trip, it'll be sold out. It'll sell immediately.
No, why not? I mean, you've been leading the exploration for many, many years, so I'm sure a lot of people want to be with you when you're doing that. Let's talk a little bit about overall how the concept of luxury travel has evolved over the years that you've been running Abercrombie and Kent. Obviously, we talked a little bit about experiential travel. That became the buzzword, it seems, about 10 years ago, but you've been doing that for a little bit longer.
Since 1962. I mean, the whole point of Abercrombie and Kent was, I'm a Kenyan. Everybody else in Kenya was shooting animals, which was, that's what you did in those days. And I said, it's too long for me to become a professional hunter. I've just been in the army. And I said to myself, why are people taking pictures? Why are we shooting everything?
Yeah. And
so I created the first camp ever, the first safari camp ever in 1967, around about then, 68. Had ice. It had ice making machines, which I stole from the army. I used all their engineers to do it. And that created the photographic safari. And I came to America with the slogan, shoot with a camera, not with a gun.
Right.
And it was brilliant. And that's what I did. And so we created a whole new industry. But I kept the excitement there. I wanted to be in a camp with rivers and buffalo and hippos and all that sort of thing all around you, not just in a big hotel with buses. And so we were the first to really do it that way. We've been doing it that way ever since, every country we go to. We now go to like 134 countries, all with the same background. It's tailor-made, it's adventurous, and I put a huge amount of emphasis on the guide. Now, you've traveled a lot. And I think when I came along, all of the guides came, they were like escorts. They came with the group from America. And I said, what's the point of that? They know nothing. They know the coffee shops in Los Angeles, but they have no idea of Ngorongoro Crater or Amboseli or any of Uganda or any of that. And so we created the first homegrown guides, and we trained them ourselves. So wherever I went, whether it was India or Egypt or South Africa or South America, we'd have local guides. The local guides would take the families into their homes. And so they actually put their own DNA into the guests. The guests went back saying, wow, I'm a Kenyan. I know Kenyans. And so it changed their whole life from being on the outside to being on the inside of a travel experience. That's really what we do.
And that really is how luxury travel evolved, is to be on the inside of that experience and to really experiential travel, right?
That's really it. I mean, and it's real. Experiential travel is real. It's not just an Instagram picture which you post to everybody. Everybody sees that. But with our trips, you'll have actually been with the tribe. We started Abercrombie Kent Philanthropy, which is another question.
Yeah. Now let's talk about it. Are you running tour programs right now in this part of in the world?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we were.
Where are you going now at this point?
Well, we were last 2 weeks ago. We're doing 2 Kilimanjaro climbs. People going down to Kenya. People going to Egypt. But the problem is with this quarantine, it makes it so difficult because the minute you're quarantined, nobody's going to go anywhere.
Right.
Because they're going to come back and go into quarantine. So we have to get testing down. We have to get a vaccination, but testing is going to be the key, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm facing that all my travels as well. So it's very praiseworthy that you are operating programs even now. A lot of people have just shut down.
No, we are. Basically, we have to create our own bubble. Said where's open, where we go, where we come back, we're not in quarantine.
Right.
That's the key. Where we can do that, we do that.
Yeah. Let's talk about for next year. What are some of the highlights of Abercrombie and Kent's new programs, and where are you going that's going to be new and different in the experiences you deliver? And I know you mentioned earlier you're going to be leading some of your programs yourself, maybe those private jet programs. So what's going to be new for next year? Well,
let's talk about it. I mean, the problem with something like this is, James, that We've never experienced anything before. And we've been locked down. Everybody, boom, like cooking, you just boom. So now, and everybody's scared. Everybody's fearful. What's going to happen if they get out? They're a little scared. They got kids, they got this, they're scared. And so actually what I decided to do is I have to lead this out. I got to actually, everyone's going to say, where's the leader? Who's going to do it? I said, you know what? I'll do it.
Right.
I'll do it. So we're going to start in May, June. Well, okay, let's start again. In April, I'm going to do a trip to Morocco.
Right.
April, May, private jet trip out of Nice or London, one or two, picking up both, to Morocco. Take about 16 people, an amazing trip. Go down the deserts, do helicopter trips, we go in hot air balloons, but all the places you normally wouldn't do. Live in desert camps, something really, really fantastic, right? Then in June, I'm going to do the one in America, early June, to the American West, all right? Utah,
sure.
Jackson Hole, all of that, all by plane. So going bum, for about 16 people. Then in August, I'm going to do the Northeast Passage on our expedition ship.
Oh yeah,
which is the Russian Arctic, which actually I've never done. I've done the North Pole, but I haven't actually done. We're going to go, do see all polar bears, all the animals that are threatened. By the way, that's the other thing that's threatening us. We got a lot of problems in the world. Climate change is here. Anyhow, I'm going to do that in August. And then in October, I'm so excited, we take our big jet, we do our 25-day trip around the world, starting on the West Coast. Yeah, we're going to do Japan, and then we're going to do Nagaland in India. Then we're going to take a little drop off in the Maldives to recover. Then we're going to go to Eritrea, and then across to Benin, all the crazy stuff that goes on in Benin, the magic, the voodoo stuff in Benin. Then we go to Brazil, see those sand dunes and the islands, and then finish in New Orleans and a few places in between. But that's already got 36 people booked, so I'm very excited.
So you are getting good bookings for next year, right?
Done, 36.
Yeah, that's great.
And we closed it at 46. So I've only got 5 more couples.
There you go.
I launched about 3 weeks ago. Yeah, that's very good. Then we do that. But what I really want to do, and I'm still working on this now, I want to launch every month a trip from, say, Friday to the following Sunday, like 9 days.
Right.
Take a Global Express, not a huge plane, one I can get, which takes 13 people, say 12. My wife and I, so I've got 10 people, and we do that trip once a month. I can put it together quite quickly, take a bubble. The minute I see a bubble, because this is not going to be over. I mean, we'll get back to that in a minute. I don't see this as, we can all find out. You're going to have to take a bubble and go there. And whether that's down to Global Express, I took my family back the other day, 12 hours, 30 minutes. London, Brazil, done, finished. Perfect. Right. So we can go anywhere in the world, right? I mean, that's a long flight, 12 hours, 30.
Sure.
I mean, with one refuel, you get anywhere. So but bring it down, a manageable jet plane, all the comforts. I love amazing bottles of wine, the greatest guides, myself and my wife, Otavia, and do that. And I think that way they're going to be short, sharp, and you can do it. Right. The bigger trips, with all the planning that goes in, have to be laid off by 18 months to sell it. These trips you can move pretty fast. I think within 6 months you can sell it. 6 months lead time.
No, that's great. It sounds like some amazing programs you're devising, even in the midst of this pandemic. Now, let's switch gears a little bit. We talked a little bit about your interaction with travel advisors, but how have travel agents, travel advisors contributed to A&K's success over the years? And how have some of the top luxury travel advisors, you mentioned Valerie Wilson and others, who have really helped you devise and fine-tune your programs?
Do you want us to speak for another 2 hours? Or
no, well, let's get the short version of it. But just in general, you obviously I know you really have developed strong relationships, and as we both know, Valerie, she's not shy about her opinions, so she will tell you what she means.
I love Valerie; she's great, and Jennifer. But my whole being here today was because of one wonderful woman called Jane Chapin of Adventures Unlimited. All right. And, we go way back, and I dreamt up this idea of the camps I told you about earlier. And I went to New York, met with Jane Chapin, and Jane said, what an amazing idea. Saw her husband called Buzz and said, this young man has a great idea, and I'm going to go with it. I took her. She went. She was the first person in my camp. She raved about it. We came back. We launched a program through Abercrombie and Fitch, where Adventures Unlimited had their stores, basically in New York, Chicago, and I think San Francisco. And we launched it all, and we sold out the whole package of 200 people for 1 year after one trip.
Wow!
And the rest is history. You know, and Jane sadly is no longer with us, but I was such a huge admirer, and you know, of Adventures Unlimited too. Joyce Small, who I think Joyce may be watching, and Joyce was there, and so you know, I've worked very closely. And they're your eyes and your ears, and they're what I call the last mile. All of us have a last mile. If you're sick, who'd you call your doctor? Right? You can call any doctor. I don't think so. You're going to call your doctor. And you know, travel agents are like that. I mean, if there's somebody, people are fearsome now. They're going to be, they're worried. They're going to call their travel agent. So Valerie, what do you think? You know this guy Jeff Kent? Would you go with him anywhere? So Valerie says, forget him. It's forget him. You know. So,
I don't think he's going to say that, but that's but you're
Barry said, "No, give him a try. I've known him a bit."
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe you know he's okay.
He's okay.
Yeah.
But you know, for instance, and all of them, whether it's a Virtuoso, whether it's Zell, you know, all of these different people, you know, they're all terrific, and they are your last mile.
No,
people who go to them.
They really are, and obviously I've been covering them for about 30 years now, so I kind of got to know a lot of them over the years. Valerie is kind of like my industry mom, you know, so you know, the same thing. She's a wonderful lady, and a lot of wonderful travel advisors who really know their stuff.
I forgot the biggest thing of all. Okay. Years ago, I was the Rolex man. I was a big polo player. Did you know that? No.
Yeah.
But one period of my life, I won the U.S. Open, U.S. Gold, and I became the Rolex ambassador, along with Jackie Stewart, Arnie Palmer, and 2 or 3 others. And then they had this group of advisors, Rolex did. And I said, I'm going to have my own group of advisors. And I started our Club 100 and our advisory board, which were the best people who brought me my Club 100, which were the top guests and the top people in the Club 100. And those people, we have meetings every quarter. Every year we go off together. I used to lead all the trips myself for years and years. Now they're led by our CEO in Chicago. But they give us so much good information. Like, why are you doing this? You should be doing this. And so you get you get the last mile knowledge into our brains. Otherwise, we don't see the client. How do our management see the clients? We don't see them.
Right.
The clients come and they're there, but they don't come to our office. So these people come to our office, give us, and you're right, they're pretty forthright. They tell you what you think, what is good, what is bad, get it right. Yes. No,
they're the most travel advisors I know are not shy about telling you exactly what they want because they have to satisfy their very high-end clients. So they want to make this good. Now let's turn to a little heavier questions like we haven't done. But how do you believe the whole coronavirus pandemic has affected the travel industry for the long term, and will travel change? And maybe it might be in a good way. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to, and I say this, by the way, not in a partisan way about my own business. I mean, you always get a broad question. I'm not here to. I think that the big groups are going to be affected, I think people, well, to begin with, people are going to say, I don't want to go and do that. Like, would you actually go to a nightclub today and rave? I don't think so, you know. Would you go to a nice restaurant where the tables are spaced? I think you would say, okay, I'll try that. So it's the same idea. That people are going to be more cautious of what they do. So the big group mass business will be affected, certainly for a year or two. I think that the cruise ship industry, I think the expedition cruise ship business will come back. There are only 150 people maximum on one of those expedition cruise ships. They'll be the first back, by the way. Yeah. Because they don't have to leave from a U.S. port. They can leave from other ports. I think the cruise ship industry under CDC are really hammering them a bit as to who can go.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be definitely a few months, maybe a year till everybody's back. Yeah.
No, absolutely. You get one case, then one.
Yeah.
So I think that I think it's going to be slow. To answer your question, it's going to be slow. It's going to be being perfect. You cannot make a mistake.
Right.
You've got to have testing in your camps, your lodges, your ships, everywhere you operate, your planes, your boats, your yachts. Everything's got to be pre-tested with COVID, okay? Mm-hmm. Hopefully we'll all have vaccinations by July, August. But again, we don't know. But even having said all that, I just read today that there are new strains of COVID happening. There's a new case today. So if you have a vaccination, it may cure you of that COVID, but what about the other COVID? You know, so what about that? So I think for some time, even with vaccines, even with testing, I think you're going to have, certainly for a year or two, you're going to have masks, you're going to have social distancing. It's not going to be a free-for-all like it was.
No.
But totally.
At least for through 21, I think. Hopefully 22 we'll get back to some semblance of normalcy. But
22, we have to be back in just about full gear again, you know. But 21 is going to be, and again, it's going to be trust. Yeah. And the company that comes out first and gets trust going will be very, very important.
No, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about some things you might have discovered during this. Everyone calls it a pause, right? About travel. What have you discovered about your company and even about yourself during this period?
Well, the amazing thing is, let's talk about myself. I've traveled, I think I've traveled 17 million miles in my lifetime. I've been to the North Pole. I've been to the South Pole. I've taken a jet up to, 80,000 feet, Mach 2.2. I've done all sorts of crazy, inane things, all right? And actually, I've spent very little time with my family because I'm back for a week, then I'm off again.
Right.
So actually, to spend 6 months in Brazil, my wife's Brazilian, to spend 6 months where we've had new kids, just coming up 4 years old, twins. Wow. So to spend some time with them was amazing. Yeah. Teaching them how to swim and going on the beach. And I never had that in my life. Reading a lot. I have a lot of interviews, Zoom interviews like this with lots of people. But it gives a lot of introspection, saying, where are we? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? You can look at your company from outside it, from inside, sorting out problems, on the outside, the DNA. And actually, I came up and said, we're in a pretty good place as a company. Mm-hmm. We've always been tailor-made. We've always been expeditions. I love private trips. That's what we do. We just got to perfect it and not make a mistake. And we own all of our own businesses. So we can cover the last mile. We own our restaurants and our lodges. We own the lodges. We own a lot of the river ships,
No, it's absolutely. It has been time for introspection. I mean, I have to tell you, everybody said this pause, for me at least, you have to some introspection about your business. I haven't had time. I have been busier than ever in terms of covering the industry, and we've been ramping up our coverage. I'm thinking of new things and new ways to attack it. It really has been an interesting period of creativity in that sense, but it's not like I've had a lot of time for introspection. But
the point was, you weren't traveling. I don't think you were traveling.
I wasn't traveling for a few, but I have now been traveling, as maybe many who watch my Facebook around, as now probably since, I think everybody knows that I had COVID back in June, July, and then about a month later, I was back on the road as much as I could. So I was in Mexico. Like you've been leading trips. I've been in Mexico. I've been in Las Vegas. I've been in New England. I part of what I do and what you do, and I think it's, as leaders in the industry, we have to get out there, right? We have
Absolutely.
to the people show that it's okay to travel. And, I think that's the biggest thing. So I try to lead by example. And I think you certainly are someone I look to as someone who's leading by example, because you still are going out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, is there anything else that you want to say to our 100,000 travel advisors out there in the market about Abercrombie & Kent, about what the crisis, anything that you'd like to get out?
Well, I think that I have an Instagram account. If everyone would like to look at my Instagram account, which is Geoffrey, lowercase or underscore, Geoffrey underscore Kent. You'd like to look at that. I'd like to talk about conservation for a bit, because one of the real problems, which we haven't dwelt on, is wildlife.
Right.
And that's being hammered. Poaching has increased considerably everywhere. Poaching, because there are no tourists coming. And so, I have Abercrombie Kent Philanthropy, where we've given a great deal of money away over the years, and very dear to my heart. And the Burundi camp, where the gorillas are. We built a hospital from an old fig tree, which was visited by a doctor once a week. Now it has 60,000 outpatients, has nurses' wards. So I'm really anxious to get travel going again, to actually create sustainable tourism to the people, because they have nothing. Food, sustainable, not there.
Yeah.
So so many people revolve around the travelers. We're just the front end of it. We're all the back end of it. The drivers, the cooks, the guides, everything. The people who make vegetables, grow vegetables. It's a huge industry.
No, you're so right, and I think we sort of lost a little bit of the focus on sustainable, but it's so much integrated into all this whole thing that we're going to emerge from this crisis, but we have to start looking back and trying to save the industry and make it even more sustainable, and that's where we were heading before I guess this year. So it's something we have to get back to, right?
What is your own feeling? Do you talk a lot to people? Do you feel there's a big pent-up demand to travel after this 1 year?
I think there's a pent-up demand to travel, and I've said that when I've been on Zoom calls and things like that. I think the problem is there's still also a great deal of fear, and I think people have to get over that fear and realize that the industry is trying to do everything possible to make it safe, and you can be safe and healthy and still travel. It's one of the reasons I travel, and I say, look, I can take a plane. It's not a problem. I can go to a resort. It's not a problem. I can go on a tour. I can go on a cruise, which I'm going to. But that's my feeling is they have to get over the hump. They have to start thinking, yes, it's okay to travel. And yes, even if we don't have a vaccine right at the moment, there's enough out there. There's enough. They're building, there's more palliative cures and treatments. There's, things are cleaner. I think in the end, people will start to get, because believe me, there are some people who are ready to get out there now. And there are other people who are like, wait a minute, I don't think I'll go yet. But everybody has been cooped up since March, right?
Let me add one more thing. We've got a special booking. And basically, to the end of the year, we will give if you make a booking with Abercrombie Kent, we will give, within 15 days of a cancellation, we'll give all the money back, all right? So people...
Well, that's the reassurance to get people to confident in travel, right?
Yeah. Make a booking, even if it cancels, you get your money back, point one. Point two is, if there's a problem, we'll get you back home anyhow, all right? So don't worry about being marooned in Cape Town. I wouldn't mind being marooned in Cape Town.
No, me either.
But you needn't be marooned again. We'd fly you back. So, guaranteed fly back. And so these are the things we're making to make it customer friendly, all right? And so this is my daughter. Come say hello. Do you want to say hello?
Come on.
Say hello? Come here. Let's say hello. Come here quickly. Say hello. Look.
No,
He's in New York. Look.
Hello.
There you are.
How are
there you are.
Now we've had a real Zoom moment, right?
to you. I'm going back to you.
Okay, Donnie, you go.
That's one of the twins, right? Okay.
Yeah, so sweet.
She's very cute. Very cute. But that's what we're doing now. We're getting into everybody's homes with Zoom, and we're getting to find out who's behind the scenes, right?
That's the orders.
You were mentioning, I think it's important that everybody have that confidence that they can book and they can get their money back. If it doesn't work out, they won't get marooned. We heard all these.
Let me end up by adding one more thing.
Okay.
I've been doing this since 1962. I was 20 years old, all right? So do your maths, you can work out how old I am now. And I've been doing it every moment of my life. I didn't go and do something else. This is all I've ever done. I know what's safe, I know what's not safe. I'm going to leave this out with weekly trips, 1 week trips every month as we come out of this. I hope people will come and join me if they're a bit finding fearful. Don't be fearful. Come on, I'm going to go. I wouldn't be going if it's not safe.
Right.
And I'm a real person. I have an email. Everyone can email me, call me. I'm really happy to take any personal call to tell them it's fine, it's safe. Now, how many other travel companies have that today? Not too many. They do at the retail level, but not at the wholesale level, not corporations, you know? People who have done this forever. So I think that's what will instill confidence to do this.
Absolutely. Well, Geoffrey, I want to thank you for taking the time, and it's great to see your daughter and your wife, who helped us with the technology at the beginning there, because I'm not very good at that either. But it's great to see you. Hopefully, see you live one of these days. We usually inhabit some of the same conferences together, but it's wonderful to get an update. And I still think there's a lot of hope out there. I think we're going to emerge from this. But for now, we just have to get through it. And I think we're ready to get through it now. But again, thank you so much for taking the time. My pleasure. Love meeting you this way, and we'll grab each other and have a nice coffee or lunch or dinner, wherever we are. Absolutely. I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.